The ferry will be docking shortly.
Podcast 20, and just before we start, I want to tell you that our Bird Deli catalogue is out this week. If you like it, you can download it for free on the website, or if you want a real live copy, email nikki@wigglyWigglers.co.uk. There's a couple of highlights. One of our customers, John Harding, has sent us in some completely wonderful photos. The front cover has a wren stuffing its beak with insects, and in the inside there's a perfect waxwing. Thanks, John. And there's a great article from Richard on planting for birds. But no Richard this week. He's busy doing a Charlie Dimmock impression in Belfast. So I'm joined here with Rach on the sofa.
Hello.
And Ma Larkin, as I like to refer to her, Anne, who sat on the sofa opposite.
Hello.
Did you tell me that you've got wrens in your conservatory, young lady?
I did, yes. They keep popping in and helping themselves to the mealworms.
Good Lord.
Yeah, really very brave. They come in, pop onto one of the plants,
Yep.
hop up there, just see if there's anyone looking, and then they pop down. Actually, they've put 6 in their beaks all at once.
That's amazing, because they're quite shy, aren't they?
Yeah, I don't know how they lift off with 6 mealworms
Yeah,
inside them.
because I think I read they weigh virtually nothing, wrens, because they're all fluff, aren't they? Anyway, Richard's off developing his wildlife garden at school, and we lost him for a while, but you have heard from him, Rach.
I have. I phoned him today because he didn't phone us. So I thought I'd better find out what he's up to. And it turns out that he's unable to get a signal on his orange phone over there in County Armagh. So maybe County Armagh ought to get themselves a new signal receiver or something. But anyway, I caught up with him at the school and he's been very busy digging his ponds, turfing all around, laying seed, planting plug plants, but he has been up to his knees in mud because apparently they've had a lot of rain over there during the night, and so each morning he comes out and it's back on with the wellies again, although he's thoroughly enjoying it.
Excellent. We must mention 2 podcasters who have made it to the English iTunes homepage because we've got good connections with them. So congratulations to Rob from the New York Minute Show. It was essential listening on the 7-hour flight, and I know, Rach, you've been round the New York Library this morning.
I have indeed. His latest podcast is a walk around the New York Library. In fact, we went there, but it was closed when we got there, so we didn't read our guidebook enough. And so when we got there, we were sat on the steps for a while. And in his podcast, he talks about how he goes up to the steps and is a very Roman-looking building amongst all the skyscrapers.
So you've done a virtual tour.
I have, yes.
So well done to Robbie's on the homepage, and also to one of our favourite podcasts, The Pod Chef, with his Gastrocast foodie podcast from Washington State. Well done, me dears. On that note, dear listener, if you're in the mood, go to iTunes and review us. We only have 2 corking reviews, and Ricky Gervais has 256. So, anyway, what's on the show this week? Well, obviously we've got Rach in, so that'll be a new experience for you, listener. We've got Anne in, well, Ma Larkin, and she's just got over Valentine's Day bouquets. She's in the middle of lambing on her farm, so it'll be great to hear her news. We've got a wormcast from Monty, and Farmer Phil is here to update us on US versus UK beef. First of all, our New York report. We completed the tourist trail very successfully, with the help of the New York Minute Podcast. And we were lucky enough to meet Rob in person in the Rise Bar in the Ritz-Carlton. We went to the top of the Rockefeller Center, which has just reopened. We whizzed up the lift, didn't we, Rach?
Yeah.
Great fun. Top of the 30 skyscraper commissioned by Rockefeller right in the middle of a depression. He managed to create 75,000 jobs at a time where jobs were pretty scarce. So Wiggly's got a way to go there.
Yeah.
14
yeah.
at the moment.
It's also the place where that famous picture is taken of all the guys sat on the steel girder
Having their lunch.
erecting this skyscraper way up high.
Not only that, we went to see all the gold in the Federal Bank. We loved this bit because it's very, very secure. But the Americans don't keep their gold there. They keep their gold at Fort Knox. So everyone else's gold's in the Federal Bank. And we became an audience on live TV show, Fox TV's daytime show.
Yeah.
If you looked carefully, last Thursday, in the audience you would have seen Heather Rach waving gently behind the presenters. There was only one sort of classic moment. After we'd been in the Hard Rock Cafe and had a beer or two, we found a guy who was dressed as a strawberry or tomato, and it was only after we realised that we were in Times Square and Heather actually asked him, "Are you a strawberry or tomato?" He said, "It's the Big Apple, ma'am." Oops.
And then he wouldn't have his photograph taken because you'd offended him.
Yes. Oh well, never mind. I mean, I should be able to tell my apples from my strawberries or my... He wasn't a very good apple, was he?
No, you aren't.
No. One of the highlights was definitely meeting up and having dinner with fellow podcasters Rob and rocker Brother Love, who's a sort of Mark Bolan rock star. Jodie and Farmer Phil, who know much more about this sort of thing, say he's great. I just love his website address, brotherloverocks.com. We managed to ask Rob and Brother Love what they thought of the hedgerow row and Wiggly Wigglers, and here's a little snippet.
Hey party people, this is Brother Love in New York City, and I just want to tell you all that I love the Wiggly Wigglers. We're in New York City just chilling out, having a great time, and I hope to get some worms sent to me real soon. Mwah. God bless. Rock on.
Yeah.
And what our listeners really want to know is what Brother Love's opinion is on trimming hedges. That's the important.
I think that, I want to know that as well, actually.
I grew up, Queens, we had trees and hedges and things of that nature. I do remember this.
Very, very British, Queens.
This what would you call that?
The clipper. The hedge clipper. The hedge clipper. The hedge clipper.
Dull. It was so dull, and I was killing myself because I would do it, and everything would just go, it would just turn. It wouldn't cut.
Gardening was
and then one day there was the
interesting in Queens.
electric hedge clipper.
Oh, we can't
and Mom was like, "You're too young to deal with the, and I was like, but why? It's fun. It's electrical. It'll cut things, and that was just a mess. So it was horrible. No green thumb over here. No.
I think, bearing in mind our hedgerow row, that Brother Love is definitely on the side of Richard because he definitely hasn't cut his hair for 3 years.
That's actually not true. I cut my hair, but I just put my finger in an electrical socket.
As you can probably imagine, we didn't see many hedges in New York, but Staten Island was where we were headed. It used to house a 580-foot tall landfill, but now it has a serious composting programme of which the Botanic Gardens are a part. So, Staten Island, here we come to hear about their schemes to get people composting.
So, here's the Wiggly team on the Staten Island ferry. We've just left Manhattan and we're on our way to Staten Island. There's a bit of a sniff in the air, isn't there? Could be 584 feet of landfill coming up. Anyway, we've just gone past the Statue of Liberty, and Rach is here with me to give you all a few crucial facts. Rach, tell us the story.
Well, apparently she was gifted to the American people from France. She weighs 312,000 pounds.
Big bird then?
Yeah, she's a big
more
bird.
Than you?
Bit like the Wiggly team, really. Big bird. Big old girl. Anyway, her pointed finger is 8 foot long.
8 foot finger?
Yeah, and she's 22 stories of steel frame and was built by, guess who?
I don't know, who?
Gustav Eiffel. Who
Did he build anything else?
The Eiffel Tower.
Oh, what a corker.
Great.
I got a little bit of information for you. Her crown has got 7 points, and those 7 points represent the 7 continents and the 7 seas.
Wow.
If you could just name those for me.
No.
Moving on. Anyway, we're on our way to meet Sky Suter at the Staten Island Botanical Gardens. She's the composting expert, so we'll be back to you then. Oh!
Thank you.
The ferry will be docking shortly. For your safety, all passengers are to remain off stairs, ramps, and landings until the ferry has come to a complete stop at the terminal. Remain behind the designated barriers for docking. Failure to do so could result in serious injury. Please check and ensure that you have all your personal belongings with you as you leave the ferry. Please place all trash in the receptacle.
So I'm here with Skye in the Staten Island Botanical Gardens. Skye, how did you get involved in that composting programme?
The Department of Sanitation contacted us and they wanted to resurrect the program. It was already an ongoing program a number of years ago, and it got discontinued because of city budget cuts and so forth.
Yep.
Now it's come back. This is our second year. We're going into our second year into it, and it's going along really well. We're having a lot of fun, but it's totally sponsored by the Department of Sanitation.
And so what's the aim?
To give people, just trying to spread the word, so to speak, about compost and try to get people interested in it, interested in composting and recycling, and just try to get people to do more because we have such a large waste cycle,
And so does that include people? I saw a leaflet in the reception that's encouraged people to get a composter at home.
Right. We sell composting bins, and a lot of people buy them at the give backs, which we discussed before. And we also sell them here at the site, although right now we don't have any, but as soon as another month we will, yes. And people put the bins in their backyard and they use all their leaf garden waste and they put it in there.
Yeah.
And a lot of times with the worm bins, once in a while people will buy those, but we order them from online.
Yeah.
And people...
A little more specialist market.
Yes, absolutely. But some people are interested in mostly classrooms, though.
Yeah. Grey squirrel just went by.
Yeah.
It's your fault we've got those, I think.
Oh, no. They jumped ship.
I think so. We call them rats with tails.
That's what I call them.
Ah, there we are.
The little sweeties.
And then for those people who haven't got any backyard, which there must be loads of people like that.
Especially, well, not so much on Staten Island, but when you get to Brooklyn, Manhattan, so forth.
Yep.
You're talking about apartments and things. So there we try to encourage the worm bins. Okay?
Right.
Just so you can compost on your deck or porch or whatever little small area you might have.
Otherwise, do they sort the waste before they put it out?
What do you mean? Everybody on Staten Island?
Well, you've got a composting facility.
Right.
So the waste has to be sorted to get in that composting facility.
Okay. Well, remember I said they collect the leaves.
Okay.
And they collect, so that's done like in November, December. There's certain days that are slated for leaf collection. And everybody rakes their yards or whatever they do, and they put it out on the curb.
Right.
Okay.
And
then
what
it's
about
collected.
kitchen waste? Does that just go to landfill?
Yeah, pretty much. That because it's so specialized,
Yeah.
and people really aren't into the worms so much. But we'd like to.
Yeah.
We'd like them to be more so, but
We haven't got it yet.
It's a hard thing to push.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Last week we spoke quite a bit about flower miles, and I've had a reply from the House of Commons, the Lib Dem MP for Lewis, Norman Baker, to say he's pleased that our business is sourcing from the UK, and he's going to continue his work to try and get flowers with a country of origin on each bunch. So that was interesting. But of course it all took off from then, didn't it? Mar Larkin.
Yeah.
Articles everywhere. I think you've been looking at some of the press about flower miles.
Yes, in most of the newspapers there seemed to have been some article or other.
Got any facts and figures for us? She's putting on her glasses, rearranging her bun.
Thanks. Roses from Kenya, there's more than 4,000 miles. Carnations from Colombia, 5,000 miles. And orchids from Thailand, 6,000 miles.
And not only that, one of my favourite articles, which I just have to tell you who's written this. In the Daily Mail on February the 13th, ready for Valentine's Day, a fantastic 2-page spread about the real cost of your Valentine bouquet. And it talks a lot about the pesticides that are being used out there. But my favourite bit is who's wrote it. Bearing in mind it's to get rid of roses. Her name is Rosie Boycott. That's the best, isn't it? Rosie Boycott, look.
Oh yeah, she has. Very appropriate, perhaps they chose her for the article.
30 million flowers are flown into Britain every year from Kenya alone and are responsible for more than 33,000 tonnes of carbon dioxide a year. Wow. So.
But it's not just the transport, because I read an article of a person who floated up the river and saw this just masses of polytunnels.
Polytunnels everywhere.
And it was the leachate that was going into the water of the pesticides that was causing major problems for them.
Birth defects for pregnant women.
Wow.
Yeah, really terrible. And lots of miscarriages and things like that.
And I can see why your flowers are more expensive, Anne. £3 a day, I think they get.
I know, it's nothing, is it? Don't get any ideas, Heather.
No, certainly not.
But a lot of the workers, it says in one of the articles, are migrant workers. They're not actually Kenyans anyway. They're European workers go there to work.
God.
Gosh.
Mm. Interesting, isn't it, that there we are trying to trade with Africa, which is in principle a fantastic idea, trade not aid, and yet what a legacy we're going to leave if we continue to exploit countries like this because of our own ignorance. I am quite sure that most people who pick up flowers in a supermarket or in a florist have no idea about the impact
that that's even know where they've come from, do
causing.
they?
Absolutely not. So what are we going to do about it? Well, I suppose there's fair trade, and I'm sure there are some companies that are trading ethically. But the key thing is to source flowers in the country that you're in, encouraging English growers and perhaps even grow your own flowers. But I think part of it is going back to this idea of appreciating the seasons for what they are. We're all sat here on the sofa looking at Heather's Valentine bouquet. Thank you, Phil. Which, funnily enough, came from Anne. Just give us a brief rundown of what I'm looking at, Anne, because it looks wonderful.
Well, we've got ivy, which came from your pear tree, well, around your pear tree. There's pink tulips, blue iris with the lovely yellow throats, white hyacinths, white snapdragons, and freesias, which are sort of a pinky purpley colour. And then we've got the lovely acid green of the blue pelorum. And you've got some tortured hazelnut, which you're very lucky to have, because I don't cut that tree very often. And the catkins are just coming out now, which I think they're absolutely beautiful. It's my favourite tree. We planted it about 25 years ago. But they don't get very big, but this one has done well. And it's all wrapped up with aquapack, so you didn't have to put it in water. You can plonk it straight in a pot onto the table or whatever.
Which is what I've done.
You have. I hope you've watered it as well.
I have watered it, Anne.
And then it's got some pink tissue to complement the colours. I know it's not the traditional red of Valentine's, but I think this is more spring-like and quite a joy to see, really.
And me. What do you think of it, Rach?
Yeah, I think it's really nice. I really like it.
That's good.
Thank you.
That's all right.
Now, we must go on to talk about the other things that you're up to, because you're busy on, aren't you?
We are fairly, yes.
Tell me about it.
Well, we've just finished the first batch of lambing. About the 12th of August, we put the tups to the ewes.
I wonder if we need to explain that.
Tups are male sheep.
Right. So it's a
You
bit
can
of
call them tups or
rumpty
rams.
pumpy.
Oh, yes.
On the 12th of August.
On the 12th of August, and the lambs...
The glorious 12th.
Yes. Glorious for tups for other right reasons.
Absolutely. So what sort of tups have you got, and what sort of ewes?
We've got Suffolk tups and Texels.
Right.
And we've got Suffolk and Texel cross sheep as well.
And what does that...
The Suffolks have got the beautiful big black faces, very traditional sort of looking sheep. And the Texels are sort of shorter in the neck. They look like their head is actually coming out of their body.
And they've got a very square bum, haven't they?
They have, yes. And quite a square head, really, when you think about it.
And the idea behind a Texel, is it the meat?
It's the meat.
So you get a nice
more
eye
in your
in
chop.
the chop.
Yeah, and more on your leg of lamb. Yeah. And those lambs started coming on the 1st of January, and now we've just finished that first batch.
And how
And
many?
there's 150 ewes.
And how many lambs have you got?
About 350.
Wow.
So it's
That's good, isn't
there are
it?
quite a lot of threes. But if you have threes, we take one of the lambs from the ewe and put it in what we call an adopter, which has warm milk pumped into it all the time, which the lambs can just take the milk when they want it.
So just like their mum, ad-lib milk.
Ad-lib milk. And then when we have a ewe that has one lamb, we take the lamb from the adopter and put it onto her as soon as the lamb's born, so that the afterbirth can be put onto the lamb. And then she takes to it and thinks it's her own. So she goes off with 2 lambs instead of 1.
So she lambs, then you rub everything onto
That's
the
right.
other one.
Onto the dry one.
Because otherwise the other one she'll reject.
She'll just hit it. Yeah, she would actually kill it. But she doesn't, when they've got all the afterbirth on, the smell is the same as her own. You put it to the teat, the lamb drinks the milk, and the milk smells the same as her lamb's, and it is just happy then.
Does it matter how old the lamb is?
Well, with the adopter system, rather than going down and feeding them 4 times a day with a bottle, they don't really know that humans give them milk.
Right.
So they don't come to you every time they see you, so they take to the mother straight away.
Does that mean that the lamb has to be in a cubicle?
Yes, it's in a sort of a square box with a lamp over it to keep it warm, and it's got hay and straw.
Do they get distressed because they haven't got their mum there, or is the key to mum the milk?
Milk. Food. Yes. And there's usually another lamb in there as well.
Right.
So they've got company. They're not on their own.
And they're all inside?
All inside to lamb. Well, they go out all day and they come in at night, so they're safe and secure, all tucked up in the deep straw. And when they lamb, we put them into individual pens so they can bond with their babies.
Oh, I see, because otherwise might they get mixed up?
Well, that's why we have to go down there like 4 times in the night. Elliot and I do the 10 o'clock round,
right,
12 and 2 o'clock. And you can guarantee at 2 o'clock there's a lot happening.
Really?
Yeah, you usually have about 2 or 3 lambing at once.
And is that scientifically proven, or is that...
I don't know why they all pop out at night.
Yeah, maybe it's quieter and
maybe
they're relaxed.
And then they bond in their little pen, and they go out the next day, so they have a whole day in. So we make sure the lambs are all sucked, because they have to have the first colostrum within 6 hours, otherwise they probably die.
How often do you have to help a ewe to lamb?
Not that often, really, but sometimes you can see when you go down the shed there's a ewe in distress, and maybe the lamb's head is out and one of its feet, which means that the second shoulder is stuck and she can't give birth normally. So you just put your hand in and help her out.
And you must be very popular in the lambing shed because you've got...
I've got small hands. Actually, when it's really cold outside, that is the warmest place.
Yeah.
It really warms your hands up. And then when she's contracting, it constricts your arm as well. It's quite painful sometimes.
And then who does after 2 o'clock?
My father-in-law.
Wow.
He's usually out there about 4. Well, he gets up to go out, has a look, see what's happening, goes back in, has a cup of tea, and he's up about 5:30. And that's it for the rest of the day. He's in and out of the shed all day.
Wonderful.
And he's 80 this year. You probably won't thank me for saying that, but he's 80 this year and he's still around as much as ever.
Dedication.
Total.
Fantastic. Well, we'll hear more about those lambs through the spring because I suppose they'll be doing their dancing.
They will, yes. They're already doing King of the Castle.
Excellent.
And next lot of lambs start in March.
Are you looking forward to it, Anne?
Sort of.
Thank you for coming in.
Oh, that's okay.
The competition's coming up, but just before then, Rach is in with a little bit of information about robins.
Yeah, and it's been brought to our attention by a guy called Udo Granoff, who is one of our customers, and he's actually in Germany. He actually lived over in this country and became attracted to robins and fed them a lot and seemed to enjoy the actual noise they made in the garden because they do make more noise than the other ones.
I love his T-shirt because he's actually printed his own T-shirt with wiggly mealworms on it.
Yes, yeah. He's taken the tub of our mealworms and managed to produce a T-shirt and sent us a photograph along with his letter all the way from Germany. In his letter, he tells us about how the robins are not as tame over there, and he doesn't seem to be able to tame them, and he doesn't know why this is. I don't know, when he was over here, he said he managed to tame them really successfully and get them to feed off his hand with the mealworms. But over there, he just cannot tame them.
If you're in Germany or anywhere in Europe and you've got tame robins, please email us and let us know about it. Heather@wigglyWigglers.co.uk or Rach@wigglyWigglers.co.uk. And what's this about eggs?
Eggs. Well, as we've come in today, the robin outside is making a real racket. And we all said, which one is that? And of course it was the robin. And maybe he thinks it's time for mating. But that's what he's singing about because, of course, in May they start the dawn chorus. And one of the facts that I read about the dawn chorus was that when the female lays the egg, always in the morning, The male then becomes excited and sings his little heart out because he knows he's going to get his wicked way just after that egg's been laid, so that the next egg will be fertilised. So it could be more sex again at Wiggly Wigglers.
Oh, stop her now. Come back in the spring, please.
Come back, Richard.
Yeah, where are you, Rich? Anyway, the competition. What is the Latin name for a robin? And we've already had a few entries in, so get your entries in and send it to heather@wigglyWigglers.co.uk. The Latin name for a robin.
Well, Richard normally gets to say this, but now I get to say it. We've been joined now by Farmer Phil.
Hi, Rach.
Hiya, Phil.
Oh, rock on, Rach.
Hey.
Phil, we've got quite a bit of feedback this week from listeners. Thank you for listening, listener, and thank you for getting back to us. So we'll go straight in with the first one. It's from Ian Salisbury, and it talks about how when he was growing up in Herefordshire, now lives in Bristol, it seemed that there was a greater diversity of habitats supporting an amazing wealth of wildlife. He says, why don't we dig the ditches? Why don't we manage the riverside? Why don't we encourage smaller fields again? Why don't we plant a tree scheme? Why don't we have a plant a hedge scheme? Why don't we do this?
I have to agree with him, really. I mean, I can remember, was it plant a tree in 73?
Plant some more in 74.
That was about the measure of it. So he is right in many ways. We have had these schemes. And I think that the changes in farm subsidy should help reverse some of the decline in them that's gone on over the last few years. So I think that you can look forward to more habitat, more trees, more hedges probably, although I suspect that actually going back to smaller fields is a step too far. But you will see more fields split up, you'll see difficult corners and poorer areas of the field put over to wildlife habitat rather than farmed intensively. And so I think that watch this space, really.
Now you're just about to plant a hedge up the fence, aren't you?
That's right, and also there's planting new hedges on existing fence lines, and there's also the gapping up of hedges, you know, where a hedge has been, for whatever reason, there's a big gap in it. To plant some quicks in it during the winter is a good thing, and it maintains these wildlife corridors that hedges form, and it's important to have a network that joins up, and so both those things are important, and you will see more of them.
And there's a real time of change, because in our parish the lengthsman is back.
We've got a new one.
Isn't that amazing? Do you know what the lengthsman is, Rach?
I've heard of him, but I can't remember what he does.
Okay, so Phil, explain.
Well, we've got to give him a mention, really, because he's been a friend of ours for as long as any of us can remember, at least 20 years or more. His name's Colin Hancorn, and he's a complete star. He used to farm next door to us. He was a dairy farmer for many years, and actually their family were tenant farmers on this estate for just over 100 years. Which is very unusual to have one family as tenant farmers for that long, and is unique on this estate for sure. So it's great that he's back in the neighbourhood, and looking forward to that. And the lengthsman basically makes sure that all the culverts and drains on the roads work. He'll help make sure that footpath access is as it should be off the roads, and basically, you know, make sure that the infrastructure of the neighbourhood works in terms of puddles, potholes, ditches, and anything else you can think of along those sort of lines.
Ah, great. That was nice to know it's a local.
And moving on from that, we've had Pod Chef back to us about the US meat, and he doesn't agree with Phil at all.
Well, he did put me in my place, and rightly so, because Heather correctly pointed out that 3 days in Manhattan was probably not going to give me an accurate overview of the meat industry in the United States of America. And having made one or two sweeping statements last week, Neil from Podchef has come back and pointed out the error of my ways, and I have to say I wholeheartedly agree with everything he says. And it was interesting hearing what he had to say, which was basically that in a lot of America the quality of meat is not great. They tend to produce intensively down to a price, and the choice to buy good quality meat is very often not there, which is a pity, really. It sounds as if he's heading in the same direction as we're trying to, i.e. to try and educate people to demand better cuts and better quality, possibly more traceability, and certainly in terms of production have the animal older when it's slaughtered, so it's farmed not as intensively, giving better quality of meat, better eatability.
One of the points that you made was that it appeared that the cuts of beef were better.
I don't know about better, they're different. different people in different places cut the carcass up in different ways, and to some extent that happens from butcher to butcher. Neil's point was that there was a time when, as a customer, you could go into a butcher and ask for your meat to be cut in a particular way, and obviously with the advent of supermarkets and so on, that's not possible now. My point was that in this country, certainly, we have high-quality cuts of meat that people know about, but they account for the minority of the animal. The rest of it is largely unknown to people, and I think they're missing out. And he agrees with me that this is the case, and what you call the cuts of beef is almost incidental, except for the fact that my point was that if you call a joint a pot roast or boiling beef, it doesn't exactly impart the idea of quality to it. It might taste superb, but the aspirations of people in this country, and according to Neil, in America, seem to be to eat fillet steak all the time, and they forget about the rest of it.
If you want to know more about the Neil and Phil discussion, you'll find it on my blog, wigglyWigglers.blogspot.com. And you'll also find a report of how Neil's getting on with his bokashi unit in Washington State. Rach, you've got a bokashi bucket at home and the office?
Yeah, I'll try and keep 2 going at the moment. The office one is being obviously filled up with the fruits and joys of what they eat at lunchtime, and that one's going quite well at the moment. We show that to various people who come here to obviously promote the product, but my one at home is working very well. I've had a lot of juice out the bottom of it, which I do tip down the drain, and it's nearly at the top, so I will be within the next weekend or so about to make a trench in my garden to empty it all into.
I had a couple of questions in from a listener, and they say, I'm interested in bokashi-empowered composting, and I wondered if you could answer the following questions. What sort of waste can I compost in the composter, and can paper be used, such as junk post-mail magazines and so forth? Well, it would be absolutely pointless to put paper in, would you agree?
Yeah, it is really.
I mean, it's fantastic for meat waste and fruit waste, but paper doesn't smell anyway, and you're not actually going to produce a compost, a finished compost from the product, so you'd be just wasting your time putting paper in. Paper in our office is shredded for packing. Otherwise, we put the paper on a conventional composter or into the wormery. And it says, how do you know if the waste has been broken down by the microbes in the bran? So in other words, how do you know when it's done?
Well, it has a pickled look about it, and the smell is completely gone. It has a nice sort of pickly smell to it. And so once you get to the top of your bin, you then leave it for about a fortnight, and then the top part is then completely done as well as the rest of it. So it's a pickled look.
Yeah, practically speaking, you normally have 2 bins, and as you fill the one, the other one is pickling. And you don't have to be too exact about it. You could actually put that compost into your garden after a few days if you filled the other one up. It's not a big deal because it'll carry on working. So thank you for that.
And now we have Monty with his Wormcast. And Monty, bring my scissors back.
The Wiggly Wormcast podcast by Monty, a weekly fact on worms. Earthworms are a rich source of food for all sorts of mammals and birds. Hedgehogs, owls, moles and birds all eat worms as part of their diet.
Thanks, Monty. And now don't you go taking my hole punch from the office. I'm watching you.
We have missed Richard, haven't we?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Have
Poor
you,
old,
Phil?
Well, poor old Swampy, eh?
Yeah.
I do miss him.
But anyway, we hope to have Braless in Belfast back with us next week, a.k.a. Charlie Dimmock, a.k.a. Ricardo. So, Noah's just joined us, so any purring that you can hear is him. Toast has just opened the door, lay down and gone to sleep. And Phil is off to do some work. So it's goodbye from us.
Goodbye.
Bye.
And over to Noah. Oh, put it away a bit.
You're not
Phil.
a very good cat, are you? How far away do you have to go to be silent?